wait. And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and on today's show, we'll talk about Redacted and the goal scorers that redacted and redacted. Honestly, we're going to have a little bit of fun this week. TFC played a friendly, apparently, we think. Those videos could have been AI generated, who knows? But apparently they did play a game on Saturday they didn't really want you to know about and that everybody found out about. We'll also just play a little bit of TFC, sort of this week in TFC history, some fun facts for you guys. And then we'll kind of just keep it light and read out some of your comments live in the stream as well. This week, a little light, but this week I got my co-host with me, Jeffrey P. Nesker. Jeff, how you doing, buddy? How was the weekend? How has life been? Are you ready for more redacted friendlies over the next couple of weeks?
Man, am I ever. What do you think of our new digs, buddy? We got like the one printout that I could use of the new kit that I don't know what it's called. So we'll call this like a temporary hang, but I tried to space it so we could at least get some of the badge and string action going on. And I think I was successful.
I think you were successful. For those that are listening to the podcast version of this and can't see this on video, Jeff has lovely, every time we have our backgrounds, it's usually based on the new kit for the year. In this one, it is the away kit with the, what I'm affectionately calling Windows 95 screensaver, floating shields that are going along. So we've got that now as the new background here for the video portion of the show. So go check it out on YouTube if you are listening on the podcast.
Yeah, don't ask me to animate this, although I might end up animating it.
That might be something we're going to do.
I'm a crazy person. Yeah. One StreamYard supports animation. G Money coming in. You're catching strays. G Money is saying Newell wears more TFC jerseys on this podcast than he does attending TFC games. My goodness.
Well, I gotta make
it. Know that's right. Benedict, friend of the show, good friend. Benedict, the real preseason game were the friends we made along the way. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And one of them was Mr. Scoops, Tom Bogart. Thanks very much for going to bat for TFC Land Faithful. If you could keep the derision to a minimum. I mean, how many times did he have to call it effing ridiculous? But thanks to Tommy Scoops for figuring it all out for us. I mean, hey, Mikey, just going back to G Money, thank you for rocking the TFC tonight. I try to rock TFC merch every single one of these that we do, and I end up usually wearing a black t-shirt because that's about as much enthusiasm as I have for wearing TFC colors right now.
Yeah, it's funny.
I just want to, yeah.
When I like go to games, usually when I'm going to games now, like there's always something I have to do like before. Like you always got to meet somebody, you got to do something, and like. And also, like, just to be honest, like the team's been awful, and you sometimes just don't feel like wearing kits to games.
Yeah.
But I actually haven't. This is the last kit I bought, so I don't have any of the new stuff. Right? Like I just haven't bought it. I'm on a bit of a kit strike with the club at the moment. But at the same time, like you still gotta wear the crest, like you still gotta wear it at a time, but like at games right now, I'm kind of on a no kit sort of not a protest but a strike a little bit.
It's a hunger strike. Yeah. Well, I mean, with fits like yours, you don't need to rock kits, you know what I mean? I was gonna say, it's funny that you said you usually have things to do before the game, because we don't get to do things after games anymore now that they're all at the same time. And when they end, we're done. Yeah, Mikey, you do need yourself a carnival kit, but that we'll probably be rocking those for a good 10 years, hopefully.
They should just kept that as the away kit, honestly. Like that should have just been your away kit. Save yourself the trouble.
I don't think Adidas would have been okay with not giving us a new kit at all. So
well, yeah, I mean these are designed 2 or 3 years in advance. So this was the COVID kit. This was everybody's depressed. They designed this during COVID.
This is honestly, they should call it the SAD kit, the seasonal affective disorder kit. They really, really, really should. I wish they had the balls to. How was my
when
weekend?
They designed this when they were just like, this is COVID, nothing matters, football doesn't matter, who cares? Let's put it together. Here you go.
The worst part, and I think I'm sort of giving away what will be the usual, other than last year for obvious reasons. Me and Mark Hinckley 4-hour dissertation, super deep dive for the crazy people on this year's crop of MLS kits. But for the most part, they're all amazing. I mean, it really does emphasize how crap TFC's is, because there's a lot of good ones out there. Like Sporting Kansas City brought the Argyle back, which is legendary. LA Galaxy are dancing around that the old school Nike 96 LA Galaxy colorway. A lot of teams are doing the central badge thing, which I hate, but at least it's interesting. And there's some and Atlanta has I guess a Falcon kit, because obviously
based off the Falcons.
It is exceptional.
I haven't seen them all yet. I gotta
tune into the Mark Hinckley 4-hour extended cut, or don't maybe just ask me in passing. But it sucks, because when we get bad kits, traditionally it's because MLS is just trudging out crap kits. If we're on an away kit year and it's one of the years where MLS has decided that a plain white t-shirt with a badge and some stripes on it is passes muster, we really can't complain. But this crop of kits unilaterally are very, very good. What happened?
Well, look, I for me, for kids, and you can tell this is the we don't have that. There's not a lot happening in TFC land podcast, but if they had just kept the shields off the kit, I actually would have been fine with this year's kit, to be perfectly honest.
And then it really is a plain white t-shirt.
Hey, sometimes clean is fine. I'm okay with clean. It's fine sometimes. Just sometimes just don't overthink it. That's it
feels like a lateral move, because we had two plain colored t-shirts cut in half, mashed together for our last away kit, and then we just got rid of the extra gray t-shirt and left with a white one. I don't know. I reserve my final judgments until I see it on, but wholly underwhelming. Andre Wolf coming in with a clarification. It is based on the Phoenix on the city flag crest. Thanks. Sorry to besmirch Atlanta's city flag crest by belittling it to an association with an NFL team. And
somebody's are going to make that connection anyway. So, but fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, you don't necessarily tune us to listen to our kids, but do listen to the 4-hour dissertation from Jeffrey P. Nesker and Mark Hinckley on.
Please do. We need it to live.
Year. We do need to talk about a ghost friendly. A friendly that happened that no one saw. It's kind of like if a tree fell in the woods. Did anybody hear it? Did it really happen? But apparently it did happen. And apparently TFC lost said friendly 4-2 to the Columbus Crew. Again, thank you to Tom Bogert for having to actually do journalistic work to figure out.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of people guessed that, because it was a pretty easy bit of deductive reasoning when you watch both sets of videos, highlights. Right. And then, people were throwing out the 4-2 loss, and they were getting corrected. Like, no. These were like 30-minute scrimmages that involved, space aliens and trialists. And so it's nice to know that it actually just was a 90-minute plus game that they played. Because I do believe that's Columbus's last preseason game.
No, it was their first. It was actually their first.
It was their first.
Yeah,
okay, there is a lot of misinformation going on.
Yes, there is a lot of misinformation, but when things go secret, then things start to spiral. But apparently, look, this is not uncommon in football. Like closed door friendlies where scores are not divulged and stuff is not uncommon.
Thank you for saying that, because you're right.
But I mean, I think when you're a couple of weeks away from the start of the season, your fans want to get an idea of what the team is going to be, right? And what is it shaping to be. Now, go ahead.
I will see you that preseason friendly results and lineups and highlights aren't uncommon, and I'll raise you that on occasion, because of labyrinthine broadcast blackouts in the UK and all over Europe, there are times where you can't see your team play. There are games that aren't broadcast in proper competitive seasons. So let's minimize the insanity a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, I also get it if people were kind of like, what, like, because I think because of the lack of news, the lack of just general news out of the club, look, your fans
Agreed.
want to know and understand what's happening. What is happening in preseason? Like, who are the players that are going to, make the roster? Who is going on the TFC2? Like, there is general interest there for a team that finished dead last, right, in MLS, to have the amount of interest that it has in a meaningless
That is
preseason
such
friendly.
a good point.
Right, like it does matter. Now, again, an agreement was made. That is fine. It's the prerogative. It apparently was driven by the Columbus Crew, according to Neil Davidson's tweet on Saturday.
New Spider-Man gif.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like apparently that is what happened. It was a 90-minute game with 30 minutes of extra time added in. TFC lost 4-2. Ayo Akinola and Alonso Cuello on the scoreboard for TFC. TFC did eventually, later that evening, post the videos of both goals. I mean, look, it's good to see Ayo. Like I said earlier in the week, it was good to see Ayo back on the score sheet. A pretty tidy finish. And then Cuello with a screamer.
Absolute howler down,
essentially. So, again, those are good things to see. According to John Herdman's comments after the game, it seemed like the first sort of 90 minutes, if you want to call it that, how you want to sort of parse that out, according to him, limited chances. Now, what does that mean? We don't really know because we don't know when Columbus scored their goals. It looks like Jason Russell Rowe scored a few for Columbus. Now, whether that was in the 90 or in the 30 minutes of extra time, no idea. But according to sort of, and this is weird because we're piecing together bits of information from all over the place.
Not just video, but I mean, do they have a lav mic at TFC? Because the John Herdman sideline interview afterwards, I'm old. My ears aren't as good as they used to be. Old gray mare ain't built. I can't even remember the thing. But I had a really difficult time understanding what the hell he was saying because
I caught it pretty cleanly. But I mean, they're probably not going down with a full. Yeah, they're probably not going down with like full kit, right? Like it's they're playing. Yeah, they were going to a side pitch somewhere in the middle of Santa Barbara, right? Like to play this game.
Nice did that environment look?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were like playing like nestled in a mountain valley. It looked absolutely fantastic.
Well, I think that it leads credence to their tweets about look at the great view as they're training or whatever, right? Like it's it's nice. Again, it's nice to see both players on the score sheet. It sounds like there was more cohesion. It also sounds like John Herdman was managing some of the minutes around Federico Bernardeschi and Lorenzo Insigne. It sounded like Bernardeschi played in the first 90. Again, how much, we don't know. We don't even know if Lorenzo Insigne played. So, from that perspective, there's not a lot to glean from the game, right?
And yet, here we go.
But yet, here we go, right? Because, you got to talk about it at some level.
I got to go back to the... Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
No, go ahead. No.
I got to go back to the microphone thing because, like, it's really Mickey Mouse, all right? Like, this is a multi-million-dollar club. They probably have a room full of equipment. To not use a lav mic to properly capture his voice, to like rely on a shotgun mic in a windy day. I hate to say it. I hate putting the tinfoil hat on, but it feels deliberate. It lessened expectations. If they came out full pro with the step and repeat, and he's talking about this and that and this, the dichotomy would have been ridiculous. So, I hate to say it, but it's either incompetence, lack of preparation, which is bad, or deliberate, which is bad. You know what I mean? Because if you're planning to do it, get good sound. You're not. I'm
going to be honest. I had no problem hearing him. Like I had no problem understanding or hearing him.
I'm just wow.
Yeah, my own thing is like
my ears checked.
Yeah, I had no problem hearing him. That said, I will agree with you on one thing is and again, we kind of, you and Mike talked about this last week a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
this idea of is a lack of news from training camp kind of a good thing, like in the sense that okay,
Yeah.
we want moves, we want player moves, obviously. And John Herdman came out last week and said he's planning on having moves within the next 2 weeks before the opener. What does that mean?
Story
We
of his
don't
life.
know.
Yeah. 2 weeks.
Yeah, but is it kind of good that there isn't a lot of drama leaking? There isn't. Doesn't sound like there's bad vibes. It doesn't sound like there's anything particularly sort of bad or newsworthy that's happening. It's just the team's getting kind of down to business, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world.
Mikey, that's what they want you to think.
Yeah, that's fair. That
mean,
could also be it if
listen,
you want to put the hat on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and listen, the hat is firmly on. I think it's beyond that, beyond the quantity over quality conversation. If you're tweeting out that a match report is going to follow, have the match report follow. I mean, that's just common sense. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they
Like
did.
so
I
much of
mean,
their
it took a day, but
yeah, it wasn't even a day. They took 7 hours. I mean,
yeah,
it depends on what you consider a day. And again, there is a margin here for kumbaya beforehand, and then Columbus saying, "Hey, guess what? Trialist, Bundesliga trialist scored, so we've now got to put a gag order on it." I'm not going to presume to be privy to the backroom shenanigans that happen and to assign blame just to TFC because they're my favorite target right now. There are a million different permutations for why something like this happened that isn't necessarily TFC's fault. And you could even read into the suggestion that that's the case because, I'm sure this club, if this club is tweeting out match report to follow, knowing full well as they're tweeting it out that a match report is never going to follow, I don't see the logic in that. Something happened to upset the apple cart. So yeah, I just, you think about the MLS's back tournament, the club going to play in like Orlando. Everybody is freaking out. We're in a apocalyptic pandemic situation, and we're getting Top Gun playing with the boys content. We're getting volleyball, shirtless volleyball with like Kenny Loggins doing the soundtrack. Right, this club can generate content to sort of grease the wheels, and they're not doing that. So your inference that this means that all's well and good in TFC land, I kind of take it as the opposite. I take it as like, shit's bad and you're not going to see it because shit's bad, right? Like,
I don't know.
Because what would you do, Mike, if shit was good? And I'm sorry, we're going to have to put a warning on this label now, but if S was good, wouldn't you be screaming it to the mountaintops? Like, wouldn't you have like a full court press of camera people with lavs? I'm sorry, I'm going to harp on the
no. I hear what you're saying. I think there's I think back to Jonathan Osorio's comments at the end of the season last year in the end of season presser, right, where a lot of things from the locker room, a lot of things around the club leaked. Right, it leaked out to the good, bad, whatever. It leaked out, and I think there is a concerted effort this time around to clamp down on a lot of that stuff. I think part of it is that look, there is a trying to dampen some expectations here on what this team is going to be in 2024. I think that's part of it too, right? I think there is a part of this where yes, they have trialists in camp. There have been rumors that certain former EPL players are in camp. We can't substantiate any of that. But, I think there is this bit of they are trying to lock down some of the stuff that is leaked, that has gotten out. And yes, they are trying to control their narrative. We've talked about it on this podcast before, that TFC is very consciously trying to control the narrative of what this team is going to be and what the club is going to project out into the fandom, right? So I don't necessarily see it as all bad. I don't love the fact that There it doesn't seem to be more profile on some of the players that are going to have bigger says in the team coming this year. Now, of course, that also could be partly because some of them are going to move.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't, you don't feel like, it doesn't feel like the club is engaging with its media very well. Now obviously, look, you and I cannot sit here and say we are necessarily media for TFC. We are fans.
No.
We run the show. Those like John Molinaro and John and Neil Davidson and even our co-host Michael Singh to a certain extent. I know he's not following the team or beat covering as he was in the past, but Joshua Cloak, for example, like it does feel like there is a little bit of, we're keeping our distance. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't love it, but I can kind of understand it from, again, when you look at Osorio's statements.
The logic is sound, but I mean, when is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result not labeled rightly as insanity, right? Like, I'm sure MLS hates having their kits leaked every GD year, right? When do you just turn into the skid, right? Like, if you're going to hold a tight leash on an environment, you're encouraging leaks to happen. You're not plugging the ship. Like, water will find a way in, life will find a way. Here's G Money again with another great insight. Everything we're hearing ahead of time is being released by the other side, West Michigan, Suburban FC. The trialists don't come from the ether. They're coming from places that want to promote them trialing with TFC in order to get more credibility for their own environments, right? Like, there is no way in this or any other multiverse that what TFC is trying to doing is ever going to be successful. It's going to aggravate the fans. It's definitely not holding any water with these other partners, the trialists and where they come from, because of course not. It just seems like such a waste of energy. You know what I mean?
They got a plan. They got a plan. Like, with probably by the time the LAFC friendly comes around, there's going to be the full court press. They just came back.
I hope you're right.
They just did media day, right? They just did media day. Really, they kind of do a week of it, right? And do all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get hit with the full court press soon enough. I do find it interesting though that and just for those who aren't aware, G Money's talking about Western Michigan and sort of Suburban FC, talking about trialists and stuff. Like, Western Michigan just tweeted today that Charlie Sharp has signed with Toronto FC, signed the senior team contract. TFC, as of right now, at least I am not checking my Twitter right now, so if this has changed, someone let us know in the comments. But TFC have not actually put out anything saying that Charlie Sharp has signed with TFC. So now we're kind of in this limbo of like, well, his alma mater says that he is signed to the first team. Has he actually signed? We don't know.
Yep. That's what they're doing. They're putting us in limbo. It's ridiculous. Like,
I mean, look, there's media plans and there's media plans and there are plans to release things at certain times. I get that. It's partly our impatience as fans, and that's just part of it. But also, like, I think there is an expectation or a reasonable expectation within, the fandom that, look, if you're going to sign somebody who you drafted last year and you stashed for a year, and you think is going to be a part of this team and maybe be a contributor, then we want to know more about him, right? Like, we want to understand, like, how is he going to fit and how is this going to work, and how he joins the other 10,000 forwards we have on this team, right? Like,
I want to see the graphic.
Yeah. Exactly, and I don't think that's an unreasonable thing. And as Turt says, still nothing from the club, so maybe he signed. Who knows, right?
Danny raises an interesting point. Western Michigan probably was just told by Charlie he's not coming back, so they announced it. They don't need to wait on the league office like TFC does. That's fair.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So I guess here's my question: is we got 2 friendlies left that we know of. They may play more closed door ones that we haven't been told of. But they have 2 friendlies officially on the books left. Are we going to actually get a look at this team before opening day? Like, are we going to actually see what this team is before we go into, the reigning shield holders? Right? Like, are we just kind of going to be guessing in the ether until the
I
25th
don't
and
think
then
you're
we're going to
asking
kind
the
of
right
surprise?
question. I don't think you're asking the right question.
What is the right question then?
What do you think would be gleaned?
That is a good question. What do I think would be gleaned? I think we would get an idea of what John Herdman is trying to do with the squad, right? We would get at least some idea on, okay, this is how the general shape will be. Shapes change throughout games. That's fine. We recognize that. But we start to get at least an idea of who might be part of his preferred 11, who might be a key contributor going forward. Now, of course, again, this is all subject to change because this rebuild is going to happen on the fly, right?
Of course.
Obviously, these moves are going to be happening well into the season as transfer windows for the league, at least, still going to be open until the end of, I believe, March or maybe April. Like so, from that perspective, those things can change, but you start to get a sense of what he's trying to do. And specifically, what are you trying to do with the DPs? Like, how are you going to try to get them firing? Because clearly, if this is going to work in some level, they got to be firing. And is it going to be more of the same? Are we just going to see them still on the flanks and Federico Bernardeschi's still going to be cutting in on his left and trying to shoot or pass to Lorenzo? And is Lorenzo going to cut on his right and still try to pass back? Like, is it going to be more of the same? We just don't know. And that's by design partly. But, I think fans want to have an idea of what are we walking into.
I don't disagree. Now, do you think that the ends justify the means? Do you think that it's worth it for people like you and me and the G Moneys and the Dannies and the Teddies and the all of us nut jobs? Do you think that that's worth it versus potentially giving teams tape on what we're doing?
That I'm not worried about. Like, teams are super sophisticated. They've got scouts. They know John Herdman's not a new entity in North American soccer. They're gonna. He
isn't domestic club.
No, but look, he has a general way of how he's going to go about it. He may tweak some things from how he worked with Canada because he doesn't have the same players or nearly the same level of players. But generally, he's got an idea on how he's going to want to play, right? Or a general game philosophies, and he's talking about it now in the second half of the season of installing those game methods and how they're going.
If you have super hearing, I have no idea. But yeah,
right. But we don't know. We don't know. But a lot of those teams are going to have a general sense of how they're going to play.
And I don't disagree with you. I mean, are you surprised? We've spent a good 10 minutes talking about how TFC is desperate to control its own narrative, sometimes at the expense of all logic. This is, to me, just another example of that. They're leaning hard into this idea of, let me ask you something. Obviously, you watched the Super Bowl last night because everybody did.
I actually didn't.
Okay, well, at a certain point, they cut to, I don't know, one of the 80,000 coaches on Team X or Team Y, right? And he's standing there and he's holding up the playbook. Now, usually it's an iPad or it's in a binder where it's all covered up, The dude's just holding his playbook like right up there. Now, certainly it's not the whole thing, but you have to imagine with the other team, Team X or Team Y, they've got an army of supplemental staff. This is the Super Bowl. It's not a stretch. Again, maybe my tinfoil hat's on really tight, but you have to imagine that there's somebody on the opposite team screen capping that, going in and zooming in to try and figure out what the hell is written on there because it gives them an unfair advantage. I wouldn't put it past them. Hell, I mean, there's 5 seconds of actual sport in between all the commercials and national anthems, so they have a ton of time to sit there and Blade Runner enhance that garbage. I'm just wondering, trying to tie it back to TFC, because I did go off on a huge tangent there. It feels to me, Mikey, like the same sort of cynical, we figured out a better way to do it, right? Like, we're because protecting trialists, it makes nothing. Like they either succeed or they fail. Their name being out in the ether has no impetus on that. I just feel like TFC is overthinking this. They're galaxy braining everything. They're certainly not doing it in an empty room. This is mitigated by the fact that the roster's in flux. I put the poll out myself. if I don't see Lorenzo Insigne there, I'm assuming that he's either in protest over some BS or injured or on his way out the door, right? That's what the club's leaving us to speculate with, right?
I mean, look, hey, first of all, on the play, like I said, MLS coaching staffs are pretty sophisticated. They're gonna have ideas in how they're gonna play.
Don't disagree.
Yeah, right. So like, I don't, they don't need to. I mean, teams do it, but you don't necessarily need to be stealing playbooks and all that kind of stuff. Like, generally speaking, they're gonna have an idea,
especially against TFC. I mean, you just said it. Like, what you know what I mean? Like, isn't it a bit of arrogant presumption? Like, wooden spoon team running it back again. You can't see our formation.
Well, yeah, you're gonna know where the weak points are.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole team. The whole team's a weak point, right? So like, you're hashing it out. Like, it's more and more levels of ridiculous. Like, what are we protecting? Like, the sand that we've got in our pockets. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the emperor has no clothes here. So the more you scratch at this itch, you're like, how ridiculous is this? Like, if this was, the new cyber truck, then obviously, like, keep it under wraps. But this, I mean, I'm picking another lemon, but like,
no, I hear what
at the end of the day, so as we're discussing this, like, everything that I'm coming to the table with as even a minor excuse to be contrary, you're ripping apart, rightly so. Like, why aren't we seeing everything? At the very least, you could make the fans a little less champing at the bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, and Turt sort of makes the point here is like a lot of fans are. John Herdman knows he's going to have a little bit of benefit of the doubt. How I'm giving him a little bit of benefit of the doubt, right? In terms of the fact that, he, again, it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to bet against him. I've said it a lot. A lot of people do. I actually get it if people are kind of like, I doubt Herdman. He's never coached a club team, all that kind of stuff. I think that's all valid. Mm-hmm. But again, hard to bet against a guy who just seems to be able to figure it out and get teams to work. This will probably be almost one of his biggest challenges.
Not biggest.
I think, hey, look, walking in the 2017-2018 men's national team, I mean, it was written in the book of Voyagers by Joshua Cloak how messed up the dynamic with there. The women's team after the World Cup and the Carolina Marachi situation, if you read about it's out there. But like, that was a messed up situation. Obviously, this one at Toronto FC, messed up situation. He thrives in these environments, right? And clearly he wants to take the time to let the players be players, right? And not have to worry about media, maybe, and not have to worry about the kind of scrutiny that is going to be coming at some point. Obviously, once the 25th comes around, there's nowhere to hide, right? As you said, if the emperor has no clothes, we're going to say if they're buck naked or not, right? Like,
yep.
So from that perspective, it's coming. It's maybe just giving the team that sort of bubble to be able to settle and repair relationships, right? I'm sure there's it's happened through the off season. You're going to have to repair some relationships in that locker room that was really fractured if most of that team is back, right? So there is a bit of that, constant? And I can understand that point of view. I think from a fan's perspective, it's frustrating because I don't want to be sitting here on this podcast talking about this right now, right? Like, I want to be talking about...
I think this is really interesting because what's the one constant of bubbles? They pop. So the very logic of insulating yourself in a bubble has an exit that isn't necessarily a positive one, right? It's not four-dimensional thinking. It's not even thinking 2 steps in the future. It's reactionary. It's born out of an impetus that isn't necessarily serving the best interests of the club. I think it's doomed to fail. And I can understand the impetus for it, but it could have been handled in such a better way. There's a question around a scroller from Danny here that I want to address before it disappears in the ether, and it reads, Jeffrey, as someone who works in film, do you think TFC just look at the cost of hiring or shipping a production team to stream a preseason game to 30K people and just think it's not worth it? Absolutely. One thing that you have to assume, and this came up earlier in the chat, we're playing LAFC. LAFC Oh, actually, I might actually take this back, because the comment was we're going to get a preseason stream from LAFC because LA Galaxy and LAFC had one last
Well,
preseason.
that was last year. That
LA
was
Galaxy.
we all got the final preseason games last year, right? Because that was Apple testing out stuff before the season.
Yeah,
right?
but LA Galaxy also has a very, very, very specific exclusive contract with Spectrum Sportsnet to broadcast their games in their domestic area, and Spectrum generally does the full court press broadcast stuff for LA Galaxy preseason games. I remember I was looking for one on illegal streams a couple years ago when we played LA Galaxy in a preseason, knowing full well that that there was a professional broadcast somewhere out there in the great wide internet.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to see it. We all want more from this club. It's hard for me not to see this as we just don't have anything more to give you. And I think that's the rub of it, right? It's hard to see it as, yeah, we'd love to give you more, but by the collision of all of these different bits of garbage that we're dealing with right now, and how everything's in flux, and all these different cooks and all the different chefs, you're not going to get it. We don't have anything more to give you, and that's what gives me pause.
Yeah, I think there's a sprinkling of that in there, but I also think it's just a sprinkling of, like, they're protecting the players and they're protecting sort of this, it's the
bubble
John Herdman, but brotherhood that they're building,
Yeah.
right? Like, we're going to hear a lot of that this season. If you thought the brotherhood stuff was getting thick with the national team during the run of the World Cup and during the World Cup, you wait till the
You ain't seen nothing
starts.
yet.
You ain't seen nothing yet. There's going to be a lot of brothers in hooding going on at TFC.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, we could talk. We talked about the theoretical / ghost.
Well, another thing
friendly.
about Herdman, he did you go to the supporter summit, by the way?
I did not. No, I couldn't.
Yeah, but I mean the skinny coming out of people that did attend. The same as what was coming out of people that attended the town hall meeting that I was lucky enough to attend. That man is very charismatic. He managed to charisma a lot of people that were the most vocal detractors. He managed to turn them around. Listen, when you've got somebody like that in your toolbox, why isn't he out there every damn day? This is another question I have.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to get,
by the club.
like I told you, we're going to get the full press of John Herdman. It's coming,
yeah.
Right?
I'm just wondering why it's not here yet. Why there's still people. If this man can sell you, the sandwich you've already bought, at double markup, and I'm pretty convinced he can. Why isn't this guy on? Why don't we have Il Magnifico? Herdman, Il Herdmanifico, billboards everywhere all over the city, right? Like this is their ace in the hand, and it seems like they're saving it. Like for what? I don't understand.
I think
and this has been an excellent conversation because you're just making me so much more confused. I came into this with like a full treasure chest, a full war chest of like devil's advocate kind of counterpoints, and you've burnt them all down to cinders. Realistically, like what is going on?
You had to burn your dreams.
Yeah,
that's what.
No, they're not my dreams. They're my nightmares. But
Well, look, I think in the end, we're gonna get a lot of. Look, trust me, John Herdman. If there's one thing John Herdman is not allergic to, it's a microphone. He will be able to spin a yarn. It's coming. We're gonna get the full John Herdman press prior to the opener, guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Just wondering why we haven't had it yet.
A lot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wanted to just sort of go through this really quickly. I found viewfromthesouthstands.com. If you haven't, I'm sure a lot of TFC fans know about it. But it has a fun this day in TFC sort of history function on the website, which is kind of fun. And I was just kind of scrolling through it on the weekend. I was like, oh yeah, this happened. And you would imagine this time during the preseason, not a lot's happening. It kind of also leads the credence to the fact that, like, hey, not a lot is happening this time of year with TFC, but a few kind of fun things that are happening this week, sort of in the history of TFC. If you want specifically today, Not a lot, other than they played a friendly in 2020 against LAFC in LA. They lost 3-1. Inafune Achara, we thought the second coming of Inafune Achara was going to be it.
He was great.
He scored that goal. And for a bright, shining moment, he was. He scored in that game. He turned around. We played the opener, I think, 2 weeks later. He scored against NYCFC, and then the world stopped. And then we never heard from Inafune Achara again. But from that perspective, that happened. If we move to the 13th, again, not a lot happening other than you're usually playing friendlies. Though I will say this was also a day we went to Cruz Azul and lost 4-1 in the Champions League. We played Cruz Azul in a friendly in 2018 and lost 4-1. This was on our way to playing in the Champions League.
CCL, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then a couple other friendlies throughout the years where we got pumped, actually, in a couple of those. Also, a couple of notable players born on the 13th of February. One, Liam Fraser. Happy birthday, Liam.
LF.
Now with FC Dallas.
Forgot about that.
That was a whole other thing we talked about last year. Yeah, with the whole Gam Tam working thing that was saying. And good old Luke Moore, for those who remember, Luke Moore for a very brief moment played for TFC. And he was born, actually came from Chivas USA, old Chivas.
Chivas USA.
Yeah, in a trade to us, and then we waived them in 2016. A couple other
shout out
things.
Mark Delgado, Chivas
Shout
USA.
out, exactly. Best club death signing of all time was Marky Delgado. Okay, just moving here to the 14th. I think we've got a couple other things. This was also a day on the 14th this week. Happy signing Caleb Patterson-Swell, your third goalkeeper day. Don't think he ever played a game for the senior team. TFC2 legend, though.
His beard was legendary.
Beard was
legendary.
He had a fantastic beard. Again, I don't think he actually played a minute for the senior team. But, again, played a ton at TFC2. Was a significant signing.
He was like a dead ringer for Stephen Fry as well. He kind of had like a Stephen Fry vibe going on.
Yeah, he very much had a Stephen Fry vibe. Yeah. I skipped a day, the 13th. Missed this. Good old Oro. Remember Oro? Oro Jr.
Love him.
That was our guy.
Love his tattoo.
Exactly.
Yep.
He was actually they're celebrating the day he was actually loaned out to Santos on February 14th, 2022. We loaned out to Santos, and he never came back. I think he's now in Kazakhstan, I think.
Wherever he's gone, people are asking him why he has the Space Needle tattooed on his neck. You know what's going on?
I don't think it's a Space Needle. I think it's a CN Tower.
No, it is the CN Tower. I'm just saying no one knows what the CN Tower is.
Because he loved Toronto. He actually talked. I think he talked about this in an interview that he loved Toronto so much that he ended up getting the CN Tower tattoo on his neck, and then we promptly sent him away. I think he's in Kazakhstan now. I think he won the league there.
Who's the Seattle-based player that I think he just retired, but Kellen Rowe maybe, and he
Kellen Rowe
and he's inked to the max with Seattle stuff.
Like that's his place, man. That's
on
his
him. Just thinking to that.
If we go to the 15th, I always butcher the pronunciation of his name, so I always apologize for this. But Ravis Huskanovic, if you remember, for the old heads, I think
you actually got it right.
Yeah,
I think you got it right.
Ravis Hasanovic, he was right back, played for TFC, or maybe in left back, played for TFC for a couple of seasons, I think like for a season and a half. This was an old TFC where like players came and go like a merry-go-round. Basically, players came in, they kind of stayed for like a couple of weeks, and then we booted them out. But he actually stuck around for a little bit. And then once we released him, he never played again. He literally retired after he wasn't like old.
That Oro Jr. is apparently killing it in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he won the league in Kazakhstan.
Like on his own, like a team of just him? That's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't he still on the books? Why can't we bring Oro back?
No, we did terminate his contract. And a couple of birthdays, extra birthdays to end out the week. Terrence Boyd the penalty that's still traveling.
Let's
It's
go.
born on
Let's go.
Born on the 16th of February. So happy birthday, Terrence Boyd. I think he's now back in two Bundesliga now, or maybe even three Bundesliga.
Well, he's traveling around the world trying to
catch his penalty.
To catch his penalty. Yeah.
Exactly. And one Federico Bernardeschi. Happy birthday. The
My
16th
favorite.
Will be Fede's birthday. Is coming up this week. So, send him Jeffrey, send him some love, man. Send him his birthday love.
Horse head under his pillow. Anyway, this ties in Daniel. I'm sorry, my eyes are just as bad as my ears. Jeff, who has a better season this year, Bernard or Insigne? I am gonna turn that to my co-host first.
Oh, who has a better season? That's an interesting one. I actually think Lore could have a good season. The man of about 400,000 nicknames. Like apparently Lolo is a thing now, and Lore and Enzo. I mean, he's got more nicknames than moves on the soccer pitch. Yeah, I agree with you. I think yeah, but honestly, if they line up the way that I infer they lined up for the who did we play for the 8 30-minute scrimmages? I can't remember anymore. Oh, Nashville?
Yeah. If we line up the way I inferred we lined up in that game, and we keep Lorenzo and Berna more central, we give Berna like a sort of free 10-second striker kind of Seba role, I think we're going to have an interesting beginning of the season at the very least. I harbor no illusions that these guys are going to get found out, but I do think we might be singing the praises of Birthday Boy because we're putting Birthday Boy in a position where perhaps they can excel for a spell.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I do feel like for Loria, especially if Herdman decides to maybe play him like as a second striker or kind of off a main striker, he can find pockets to be able to play. Richard Greenberg makes a very good point. This is all with the asterisks of
caveat, Kenny, and not get upset about bringing family on planes or whatever the hell. That's interesting, Mikey. You would rather have Lolo, Enzo, Lore as the roving Seba second striker behind, we're assuming, DeAndre?
I don't think it's necessarily the worst move ever. I think from a wing perspective, look, I've said this before. I think you've said it. I'm pretty sure Mike Singen said it too. Like MLS from a technical perspective, from a skill perspective, yes, not Europe. But the one thing that MLS has in abundance is athletes, guys who can run. And he's not going to outrun anybody on the wing, right? And from that perspective, right? So it may make sense at times to kind of play him as a second striker, give him a free role, to allow him opportunity. Look, the thing you want him is you want him on the ball at the top of the top of the D, the top of the 18, being able to either create or shoot, right? And that's...
Can either of them dribble though? Like realistically, do either of them have?
Yeah, of course they can dribble. I don't think you're not talking about guys who are going to like step over and beat guys one-on-one a ton, right? Like Bernardeschi to a certain extent, Lore not as much. I don't think he ever really was known as a guy who did a lot of that.
No, he's the short pass kind of guy.
Yeah, he's like in a lot of ways, he played wing and he played as a second striker. So, from that perspective, I think that might be the kind of the best way to use him. In part. So that's why I think he could potentially have a good season. But again, it is with the asterisks. If he can stay healthy, right? If he can't, I mean, it's, let the recriminations return.
It's triage, but they're both so useless on the wings right now. They really are. They're such pylons out there passing to each other at the expense of playing actual soccer kickball. So I think it's anybody's bet, but yeah, certainly moving them more centrally. It's just, for me, what edges Lolo, Enzo, whatever, Wasteman, being sort of central in the middle part of the midfield as opposed to a free roll second striker, is that his game is about those short little passes, right? So to have an interchange with like the Osos and the Flores of the world, get some chemistry in there, and then he can pass to his best friend, who's going to be not a half a pitch away, but further up the field to accelerate the attack, right? It just seems their skill sets would suggest, hey, I'm no Herdman. But for me, their very limited skill sets would suggest that's the way I would do it.
Well, I think
that way.
Yeah, the way that they play, they come inside, right? So they make the pitch a little bit more congested, and they're not playing wide. And Danny makes a good point here, just saying like, because they are kind of one-footed. I think Lorenzo's a little bit more two-footed, honestly, than Bernardeschi. But
he's the most one-footed player I've ever seen.
Well, you know where he's going, right? Yeah. Like so from that perspective, getting whether it's JMR or Kobe or Petretta, whoever they end up playing out in these wingback positions, it will be key to get them involved and be able to build those understandings, whether he's going to play the wing or as a second striker and then kind of float in and out. That's going to be a key, right? Because this team, if they don't, lack a lot of width, and this was part of the problem they had last year, right?
Huge.
They cut in, and everybody gets congested, and then they become very predictable and easy to defend, right? And
then they get slapped on the counterattack,
right? Exactly, because they're not those guys aren't running back. So they're not putting Lolo, whatever. I'm gonna use that from now. Putting him in the middle left frees JMR. That's the other reason. Unleash JMR. You want someone who's pacey, who's got all kinds of potential. He's right there. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Fair. I wouldn't call JMR rapid. I wouldn't call him the fastest player in the world. He's very smart with the ball. Like, he's liquid and very smart with the ball. I wouldn't call him rapid.
Yeah, okay. Rapid is maybe the wrong word. Liquid is the word that I was looking for.
Yeah.
Tricky. He's a tricky trickster. He's tricky.
Very, very much so. Sorry, you going to G Money? I think you going there. Yeah. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. G Money, you've been great this whole episode and pot out the best comments that have been really insightful, but we're going to yell at you a lot right now. Adding to the Italian DP question, do you think there's any MLS interest in either player? Other teams still have DP room on their roster. Everybody paused, have a nice chuckle, because no. The answer is an outright astounding no. Not only because their salaries are insane, but they are giant busts in this league. Nobody is going to touch these guys. Like, they would rather go for Terrence Boyd at this point than Lorenzo Insigne or Federico Bernardeschi. Let's be honest here. Let's start.
I'm gonna disagree with you in that a little bit.
Colorado will take him if we eat all of their salary.
Well, that's the thing. They have to drop. They have to drop the salary.
Yeah, like if every team in the world is interested in them. Yeah, sure. Every team in the world would be interested at them at a distressed asset discount, where TFC is basically footing their bill. But that's not. I don't think that's the question Money was asked.
Unless they, no, but you have to take that into consideration, right? Like, the fact is that no matter what situation you find yourself in with these two players, they're signed to long-term contracts, and unless they're either you buy them out, which makes no sense because you got to eat a lot of money to do it, or you sell them on if you can get a fee, and you're still probably going to eat a lot of contract anyway. Or you loan them out and you're still going to eat a lot of contract. Either way, you're eating money if they're leaving.
Yeah.
So
no, Danny. Yeah. Sorry.
So the question does become, okay, does someone in MLS say, well, okay, yeah, they got to Toronto, they were a bit of a cancer in the locker room. Maybe that was a Toronto problem, not an us problem. Well, maybe they'll see it as it's a Toronto problem, not an us problem,
and
right?
I can't wait for that hubris to blow up in their faces.
Hey, who knows, right? So again, all hypothetical. There's no rumors of this, but let's just say, like, okay, who's got a DP spot? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Like, let's say Sporting Kansas City,
sure,
go insane. And Peter Vermees loses his mind and decides, okay, you know what? I want Bernardeschi on my team because he would kind of fit.
I can fix him.
I can fix him. Or my locker room has the ability to handle him. We're gonna have to eat a lot of money, almost all of it, right? In that case, and also, does it really help you? Like, do you want to move him on to another MLS side? right? Like what? Because he could go there and if he goes there, he tears you apart.
Move him. He's not going to. So like,
no,
you know,
I said it was hypothetical and theoretical.
Yeah, hypothetically, I could be the Queen of England. Anyway, Danny is bringing up something that I need to rage against the dying of the light here. It's just the salaries that are the problem. Teams have internal budgets that could not support either of those guys. Can we stop giving like simping for people that are this bad? Like the salaries are a problem. Absolutely. Guys, they don't play nice with others in a team sport. They don't appreciate the badge in, you know, a nascent footballing culture. I mean, how many different ways do I have to say the same thing that I've been saying again? It's not just the salary. The salary is a huge issue. Don't get me wrong. It is a huge issue. It's the number one issue because they have pedigree. There'll be other MLS clubs that would be willing to take a chance. At this salary, absolutely not. With this record that's now following them like an albatross, absolutely not. We have to be honest about this situation. The term albatross doesn't even do it justice right now. Like the term distressed asset doesn't do it justice right now. The term buyer beware doesn't do it justice right now. We're in rarefied air. Like this is a spectacular failure, and no one is coming to bail us out without us footing the bill. You know, I don't think saying it's just about the salaries is fair. Would you agree with that, Mikey?
Yes, but again, I would also say that I wouldn't be shocked if some MLS team said, I got the locker room that can handle that. Right? Like, I'm not, look, it's probably not, look, it's not going to happen, right? Like, just not. But, you know, in this sort of, okay, if we're playing this hypothetical world, you know, somebody mentioned Charlotte, like, I could see Charlotte going for that. Like I could 100% see Charlotte going for that. If they were like, if TFC, hey, look, we're gonna fit the bill all but $1 million, all right, or like you got to pay $1 million of their salary and we'll foot the rest.
We're talking burning.
I don't even know if you can do that in MLS because based on
I don't think
rules,
so. But
I don't even think you can do it anyway.
But just as a thought
hypothetically again, just for thought experiment. I think Charlotte, you know what? We get a DP player. We get, we get somebody who could make an immediate impact to our team. You know, they're spending money right now. They're trying to get into the playoffs and be a playoff contender in the East.
Mm-hmm. And they need a winger. I mean, they just got rid of their winger. He's perfect.
Yeah, right. Like exactly. Right now, I mean, you kind of got rid of a winger that was unhappy and a bit of a malcontent to begin with, and now you just want to bring in another one. Whatever.
Hey, Charlotte,
but like that's
whatever. That's a bold plan, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. We got anything else, or we want to wrap this one up?
I know you do.
Yeah, because I got I want to be very transparent to people who are listening and watching this. Like, there ain't a lot to talk about. There's no like breaking news. There's no leaks that are happening, player signings, things like that. It's airtight right now from Toronto FC.
Yeah,
from that perspective. So, you know, it's kind of hard to come to you every week and say like, hey, like we want to tell you things that are happening. It's because simply just there isn't anything happening right now. And it's a weird spot to be in terms of the club. But again, the floodgates are going to open. They've clearly decided that they're going to sort of put all the eggs in the sort of last sort of week run up to MLS kickoff or whatever they call opening week in that basket, right? And then that's what they're going to do. And we're just going to have to see what they kind of drop at that point.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And to be fair, I was just trolling you because I only wanted to get to like roughly around an hour. So we beat I think the shortest show we've ever done is 45 minutes, and I wasn't on it. It was you and Mikey Singh. So I wanted to make sure that our little tete-a-tete beat that for like whatever credibility I can get with Mikey Singh, which at this point isn't much. It's fun to speculate, but we are dancing around the maypole. I think that's what you're saying. Like realistically, we can just keep dredging up the same thing over and over again. put ourselves even deeper into in my case, into the pit that I'm digging myself with respect to animosity towards certain players on the team. I'm happy to do that. I'm your sacrificial lamb here, but yeah, not much to talk about. I am convinced that, like you said, the floodgates will be opening. I have a question for you, and it's not even a football question. What do you think about the 100 level at the Dome getting cup holders? Is that going to be at the expense of kneecaps? Because there's already no room back there. Like,
no comment.
Make more space?
No.
Okay, good. Because I mean, I'd rather hold all the cups and keep my knees than have an indentation where my knee used to be.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Okay. All right.
I've seen it.
Are you under an NDA? You're under an NDA, aren't you?
You're gonna be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I've seen the new seats. They're in. You'll have room. You'll be okay.
I mean, the old ones were good for like $2 hot dogs, and then the bloat happened, and I had to stand up anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, hey, look, I'm 6'3", and I've had to sit in those seats before. It's not a fun time to sit 9 innings in those seats.
Yeah, it feels.
Knees 40-year-old knees don't work the same way that they used to. All right, but you don't want to hear about my you don't want to hear about my creaky knees. Thank you for tuning into another Toronto Till I Die. Oh yeah, sorry. Oh yes, you did have one thing. Sorry. Yeah, go. Yeah.
It's fine. I'm copying a friend of the show, Dan Wong, who's been doing this on Footy Prime to much fanfare. I'm going to start reading out our 5-star reviews as a impetus for more of the TTID community to add some more. We got a fresh one last Tuesday from Polly Canadian, 5 stars, of course. And the text reads, by the way, for those keeping score, this is my first cold read on this show. Great podcast. Incredible amount of insight and information that your work friends cannot understand. It's one podcast I look forward to pre and post match. And when I die, I'll be TFC. Thank you very much, Polly Canadian. You brought a warmness to the cold cockles of my heart. It's always nice to read that stuff from the community. And long may it rain. Long may it rain.
Well, Paulie Canadian, thank you so much. Of course, you probably listen to this podcast and we're like, you guys talked about a ghost friendly or something. Thank you for tuning into Toronto Till I Die. Again, the favors are the same as they are most weeks. Rate and review the show. So thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. 5 stars anywhere else you're listening to on Apple Pod, on Spotify. Leave a review like Paulie Canadian did. We really appreciate those. And obviously, again, it helps people find the show in the TFC community. Give us a follow on Twitter as well, or X, or whatever you're calling it. If you're still on the Doom Scroll app, it's at Toronto Till I Die. For Jeffrey P. Nesker, I'm Michael Singh. I'm not Michael Singh. I'm Mike Newell. See you next week.
You're Mike Newell.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And wait. And baby, I'm TFC till I die.